says we're in a practice session, I assume we're not really practicing. This is the real deal, right?
Yes.
No,
okay,
we're
so
still in holding mode, so
Yeah, right.
we'll let you all know when it goes live.
Right, just for your reference, what I do is we stream to YouTube as a backup. Only in case we get over 500 concurrent attendees, they get put to watch the YouTube. I
Okay.
don't expect to have that many attendees, but it's a backup. So that way we will be officially broadcasting on the Zoom platform, but the YouTube is just a backup. So we will begin in just a few moments. So please, everybody, remember, once I actually start the webinar and I say that we're broadcasting, please don't talk and please don't come on camera until it's your turn, because at that point we will be broadcasting to everyone. Okay, I'm going to begin playing the lovely holding video, which you all, as I say, will get bored of listening to. As a reminder, I will open up the webinar at 5 minutes, before the hour, the top of the hour, and that is to allow the attendees to filter in. But the video will just be playing. And then again, for Jared, although we say we start at the top of the hour, we wait until 2 minutes past the hour. And that's when you turn your camera on, and then we know, then I turn the video off and you start talking. So basically when you see the video go off and it's quiet, then you start talking. All right, here we go. Let me start the video.
Hello and welcome to this session on wastewater and sewer data management. I am Jared Sheehan from the Water Foundry, and I would like to welcome everyone to this session. And first of all, thank you to all of our panelists who have joined us, and we are pleased that everyone is able to join. So before we get started, I would like to send up a demographic poll to understand who is on the call today. So if you could please do that poll, that would be great. And while people are filling out the poll, I would like to just talk a little bit about the exciting panel that we're going to have today. I know I'm really excited about it. My father is actually a water and wastewater superintendent in a small town in northern Ohio for the past 40 years. So I had the pleasure of using a lot of analog systems in the wastewater and sewer management side of things. And in the work I do now, I use a lot of digital technologies. So I'm excited to learn about all the different things that we're going to be talking about today. And this is just going to be a really exciting session for all the participants involved. One thing that's really important is the move towards digital technologies. And, particularly in the wastewater sector, there are a lot of opportunities here. The option of analog is no longer there today, and everything is going to be moving towards digital, and there's a lot of opportunity. And one of the things that's exciting is that utilities have been accelerating their digital adoption of technologies and those different aspects. And so, it's going to be a really interesting conversation. I think everyone's going to learn a lot about that. And that's important. Recently we had the, massive COVID outbreak, and one of the really interesting aspects of it was using wastewater data and mapping GIS data for wastewater to be able to identify COVID outbreaks and hotspots and those sort of things. And I think that's going to be really exciting. And the other paradigm to be thinking about is thinking about wastewater as an asset rather than just waste. What are opportunities for data points and data mapping and ways to be thinking about digital technologies? So all of that's going to be talked about and different things that we're going to be looking at today. And we have a great group of panelists that are going to be presenting on different aspects of wastewater and data asset management and GIS mapping and those different components of it. So that'll all be part of today's conversation. So I think with the poll, we should have about enough time for that to come up. Let's see what the results are. All right. Looks like we have a strong representation from local government, which I fully support, as I earlier mentioned. Good representation from state, academia, industry, and others. Location-wise, looks like we're primarily in the US with some representation in other countries, notably Canada. And the different sectors that we're looking at today. We've got a lot of public administration and planning, some transportation, and a strong public works and utilities support here today. And finally, the size of the municipality. We have, looks like the largest contingency under the 25,000 municipality city, with over 100,000 being the second largest portion. So a fairly equal spread in terms of the size of municipalities being represented here today, which is really exciting. And I think our panelists will be able to, we'll talk about. So with that, I will hand it over to Alex Kabak from Esri, and he will kick us off on our first presentation.
Great. Thanks, Jared. So my name's Alex Kabak. I'm a product engineer on Esri's utility solutions team. So my main background is with wastewater, but I also work on water solutions as well. So what I'll be covering today, I'm going to be covering mainly two of our wastewater solutions. So that's sewer data management and sewer manhole inspection. Before I jump into those, I'm just going to describe what our GIS solutions are. I could then break down what the different apps that are in sewer data management and sewer manhole inspection. I'll provide a short demo, and then I could talk briefly about the other wastewater solutions that we have. So ArcGIS solutions are ready to use ArcGIS configurations. So what do I mean by that? And I like to break this down into two different parts. So with ArcGIS configurations, we pre-configure different parts of ArcGIS to come together as one solution. So that includes the data models. We will create the data models in feature services for you. We will also pre-configure maps, apps, dashboards, hub sites, surveys, all coming together as a system to create a solution. These solutions are included with ArcGIS. So if you have ArcGIS licensing, that means they're free. They're also fully supported. So if you have an issue with a solution, just like our other Esri products, you can log an issue with support and we can get that taken care of. They're very easy to deploy. With just the click of a button, once you find the solution you're looking for, it'll lay down all the things I just mentioned, the data models, the feature services, maps, and apps, all get laid down in your organization, pre-configured, ready to work together. And we also have a lot of them. So we have over 150 solutions and counting. We release every 3 or 4 months, usually coinciding with our ArcGIS Online updates and our ArcGIS Enterprise updates. Some of our solutions are available only for ArcGIS Online, some for Enterprise, and some are available for both. So the first solution I had mentioned was sewer data management. And this is a solution for mapping wastewater assets easily. So you can see here, these are the different apps that are provided and the different info products that are provided with the sewer data management solution. You can also see the different types of users that would be using these different apps around the outside. So starting from the left side with mapping technicians, there's a couple of different ways that mapping technicians can add data to the map. So we have Sewer Data Manager, which is an ArcGIS Pro project. That's for your more robust, more advanced editing, more bulk editing experience. We also have a web application. So that's Sewer Editor. And this is a web app builder application that's intended more for easy, quick updates like attributes, maybe adding a feature or two. We also have something called the Map Notes Manager. So we include map notes in our data management solutions, including sewer data management. And map notes are intended to communicate issues within the system. So that could be either data issues. So let's say a manhole was in the wrong location. You can add a map note to the map to indicate that the manhole needs to be moved to the correct location. You can also provide map notes for the actual asset itself. So let's say a manhole cover was damaged. You can add a map note indicating that the manhole cover is damaged. So it almost works as like a lightweight work order system to get that taken care of. And you can also provide some general institutional knowledge. For instance, if a dog was in a front yard and you know that there's an electric fence, you can communicate that with the rest of the mobile workers that, yes, there is a dog in this front yard, but it is safe because there is an electric fence. In addition to the Map Notes Manager, we also have a viewer app. So we have a viewer app that's just for viewing assets. And we have an editor app, as I mentioned before, that's for editing assets. There's a dashboard, which provides some high-level statistics for some common assets in the system. And we also have a mobile field map called Sewer Asset Collector, and that's for collecting data out in the field. For sewer manhole inspections, this is a more focused application, or sorry, a more focused solution. This is for planning, assigning, performing, and monitoring manhole inspections. So I won't go through every single one of these items, but as you can see around the outside, we do have an application for planning. We have we use Workforce, ArcGIS Workforce for assigning the inspections. We have a field map for performing the inspections, and we also include dashboards for monitoring the inspections. So the neat thing about these two solutions is that they actually work together. So they share the same feature service, which powers both the sewer data management solution and the sewer manhole inspection solution. So the feature service, if you deployed sewer data management and then you deployed sewer manhole inspection after that, it will use the same feature service within your organization. So as you add manholes, let's say using the sewer editor application, it will show up in the different applications from sewer manhole inspection. That way they're both working together as a system. And that's what we're seeing here. So in the middle, we can pretend that the cloud with the layer and database symbol in the middle with the spokes coming out of it, those are the feature services. That's what's powering, that's the data behind the solutions. And as you can see, it branches out to both at the same time. So now I can show some quick demonstrations. And I won't be able to demonstrate the solutions in full because of time, but I can demonstrate some key applications from both. So we're going to start in the sewer editor application. This is with the sewer data management solution. So as I mentioned, this would be the application where you can add new features to the map. You can also update features. So we can pretend, let's say we zoom into this upper northeast corner, and we want to add a manhole and a main to extend the system. Okay, so we can actually use some tools within this application to do that. On the left-hand side, we have pre-configured edit templates to easily be able to add new features to the map. We also include a measuring tool. So let's say we have a drawing that says that the new manhole is 300 feet from the existing manhole. We can use the measuring tool to snap to our existing manhole, measure out 300 feet. I'm not going to do it exactly, but we can measure out 300 feet. And now we can add the manhole to the map. So we can go to the location that we marked out at 300 feet, click, and now we can add attributes for the manhole as well, and click Save. And that's going to add the manhole to the map. So once that gets added, we're going to want to connect it to the existing part of the system with a gravity main. So we can search for that. We can filter our edit templates for sewer gravity main, grab our collector gravity main. Using control, we can snap to the manhole, the new manhole, draw it towards the system since that's the way the flow is going to be going. Snap to the second manhole and double click. And now we have our main, and we can add our different attributes like the diameter. We can add 8-inch. We can add 8-inch ductile iron, let's say, gravity main, and click Save. So this is going to show up in the rest of our apps as well. So we're going to be able to, in a second, go to the sewer viewer. So this is just for viewing purposes. We can refresh our application. So this is all updating in real time. We can then pan over to the new part of our system, and we could see our new 8-inch ductile iron pipe and our new manhole. You can also search for assets as well using, let's say, the asset ID. So here we can see we have a manhole that is manhole 2038. We can filter our search for just manhole, type in 2038, click it, and it's going to center the map and bring up the pop-up to easily view information about that manhole. Some other tools that are included in these web app builder applications, we have a base map switcher. So if you wanted to view imagery instead of a topographic base map, you could switch to that. We include a bookmarks application as well as a legend as well. Another key part of the sewer data management solution is the dashboard. Here you can view some high-level statistics, some counts. You can see the miles of main for both gravity and force. You can see the number of lift stations, manholes, as well as the number of service connections, which would be pretty similar to the number of customers that are in the system. Also break down the gravity main and force main as well into the type of material, diameter, and when they were installed. So those are the key components of the sewer data management solution to be able to easily map and inventory your wastewater assets. So the other solution I mentioned earlier was a sewer manhole inspection solution. And one of the cool things about this solution is we are actually using an experience builder application to package most of the solution within one application. So what I mean by that is using the tabs at the top, we've actually embedded the different applications. So we have a planning application, we have a workforce project to be able to assign the different inspections. So here's a workforce project. We also have monitor to be able to monitor the assignments and the inspections. And these are two dashboards that are all housed within this experience builder application that we call the Sewer Manhole Inspection Center. So going back to the planning application, we would use this to prioritize the work. So we can use the filter on the right-hand side. And actually, before we do that, let's first look at the symbology. So these are the manholes. We're only viewing the manholes in the system. So this is actually the same service that we were just looking at, the same data, but we've removed everything except for the manholes. And we've symbolized them by the last time they were inspected, as well as the condition of the last time they were inspected. So the darker the manhole, the longer it's been since it's been inspected, and the larger the manhole, the larger the symbol, the worse the condition was. So we can actually use the filters that are provided in the map to filter down. Let's say we want to see the manholes that have been inspected more than 3 years ago, as well as the manholes that are in poor condition. So here we can see some different manholes that meet that criteria. So from here, we can actually create assignments, and we can use the edit template on the left-hand side. We do provide instructions on how to use this tool. So we can grab that edit template, select some of our manholes here. Let's say we select these two. We can ensure that the global ID fields, so basically what this is doing is it's creating an assignment at the same exact location as the manhole. So this is using a separate layer, an assignments layer, to create an assignment at that exact location. We can click apply and create features. So now we have our assignments layer. That's when we're going to want to go to our assignments tab. We can refresh this, and we're going to filter the assignments by unassigned. So we're going to remove everything else that's in here except for our unassigned assignments. And here's the two that we just created. And we're going to want to assign this to a mobile worker. So I'll choose myself. And now we can see that they become assigned. They've disappeared because we have the filter on. We can clear it. And okay, that's not working, but that will create an assignment for myself, and that will show up on my mobile application. Now my screen sharing is not working for right now, so I do have a video, and hopefully this comes through clearly. But what you're going to see in this video is these are the assignments that you get in the workforce application out in the field. And the neat thing about what we've configured here is that when you click on the inspection and you can actually link, it's going to link to field maps, and it's going to link to the related table to perform the inspection. So you're not going to have to go searching for the manhole in field maps. It's actually going to bring it up and open the related table to perform the inspection for you. So I'm going to play this. We're going to open the assignment. We can then start the assignment. So we're going to see that in the middle. It's going to turn green. So we've started it. And then in the lower right-hand corner, we have our field maps app. So that's going to open up field maps. It's going to select it. You can see in the map, it selected that manhole. We can see that it's been assigned to me. It's inspected by me. You can see the form. So these are all different parts of the manhole: pre-inspection, cover, frame, and ring, chimney, cone, and barrel. We would be able to expand that and fill out the inspection, the overall condition as well. So we're going to set that to average, and then we can submit it. So once it submits, we can then go back to Workforce and show that we've completed that assignment. So we're going to go back into Workforce and click Finish, and now that assignment's been completed. So to be able to monitor these assignments, we can use our dashboards. So that's in the Monitor tab up here. So we can monitor the different assignments. We can do that by worker, by filtering the dashboard. So that'll filter. You can see what's been completed, the percentage. You can do that by worker, as I just mentioned. So we can click my coworker Joel. He's done 20% of his assignments. You can see in the map as well. We can zoom in and start to see those assignments as well in here. So these are all the assignments that are out there right now. We can also monitor the inspections themselves. So this is where we can see the manholes and their inspections over time. We can view them by the oldest. So this is listing the manholes that have gone the longest without being inspected. We can select it. We can see the different scores that it's had over time. We can also see more data. So each inspection, we can view what the different conditions were. We can also see the system as a whole and what the condition is. So what is the average condition of the manholes within the system as a whole? So right now it's a 3. So this is a way that you can monitor the inspections that are being performed. Okay, so let's go back to our slides. And so those were the sewer data management solution, sewer manhole inspection solution. And I was able to show how they're able to work together with one feature service. So it's powering both of them. We do have some other wastewater solutions. So we have a utility network solution as well. We have a CCTV manager solution. Right now, that's just a toolbox, but that is going to be worked on to become a full solution. We hope to have that out by May. We have a combined sewer data management solution and a reclaimed water data management solution as well. And then a couple of capital project planning solutions. So the capital project solutions are not part of our team, but they are related to the wastewater industry. So thank you. And now I'm going to send it over to Jenna Levier from the Arizona State Land Department and Phil Ponce from EMS.
Thanks, Alex. That was fantastic. Welcome, everyone, and hello. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am the Deputy State Cartographer from Arizona, and I'm here with Bill Ponce. He's one of my colleagues. We're going to highlight our State Geospatial Clearinghouse. I'm going to give a quick overview, and then Phil's going to give you a demo. So I hope everybody can see my screen. I'm assuming that's the case.
Looks good.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to go pretty quickly. What you're seeing in front of you is our landing page for our State Geospatial Clearinghouse. This is an initiative of the Arizona Geographic Information Council, and it's been developed in partnership with Arizona State Land. So the real big power of our clearinghouse is that it provides two different solutions, so to speak. It provides a public-facing website for the public and geospatial professionals to access authoritative data and guidance when they develop authoritative data. It also provides access to a secure backend where geospatial professionals can collaborate. They can also develop data individually or as a team. It provides access to ArcGIS Online tools and solutions. And in most instances, it is a free resource for the public and for state and local government. So you can see as I click through, we've got an open data site. This allows the public to access that authoritative data. We have guidance on building your data and metadata because it's always important to understand the intended use of authoritative data and make sure that you're using the right thing for your particular project and your particular problem. We have an overview of groups because the backend is a collaborative space, and there we go. This gives an idea of who else is in that space and where there's opportunities for collaboration. Then we also highlight some use cases and some custom solutions through our partnerships page and through our community page, our Arizona Geographic Information Council. The members tab gets our registered users, which it's a free account to sign up, but that provides the secure backend that I mentioned. This is the access to that backend, and that backend is essentially ArcGIS Online. And I'm going to hand it off to Phil so he can give you a demonstration of what that backend looks like and how he supports local government in creating asset management solutions. Phil?
Well, thank you, Jenna. At this point, we want to, well, I need to share my screen, yes?
Yeah, and I think we wanted to, while you're sharing your screen, I think we wanted to do a quick poll just to get an idea of the tools people use. Fantastic. We'll get
All
back
right.
to it.
So Jenna, can you see my screen okay?
I can.
Okay, good, good. We're going to give everyone just a minute or two to do the poll. There's only 4 questions, maybe 5. So thanks for taking the time to fill this. The questions that I'm asking here really help us understand what people are using online technology for. It's pretty rare that we ever have, what do we got, 300, almost 300 people, 300 professionals in our great industry that that we can tap on and get this kind of information. So thanks again for taking the time. Appreciate that. One more moment while we wait for the poll to get finished. The many benefits of AZGeo. Jenna is one of the hardest working people I know. She keeps this thing going for us, and I'm one of the probably the biggest user, maybe, right, Jen?
Yeah, pretty close.
The idea being that I use and leverage the AZGeo tools for all my clients. I'm in the private or public sector as a GIS consultant. So the nice thing that for most of my clients is, hey, it's free. But what I found is people don't know what they don't know, right? If they don't understand what ArcGIS Online is, how could they even ask me for it? So that helps us on the poll and to know where you're going with that. The idea being is what the benefits of ArcGIS Online and the AZGeo offering are what I'm bringing to my clients. And I think we've had enough time to finish the poll. Hopefully, there's only a few questions. Oh, beautiful. Are you responsible for you? Okay, good. You currently, that's surprising. That's good. Custom viewers, web app. I'm seeing some people getting into the newest experience builder, web app builder, looks like, and maybe we don't know. That's fine. The number 4 doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that experience builder, even though it's been around a couple of years now, that it hasn't quite caught fire. It will. This thing is a beautiful tool. I'm actually not going to show that today, but certainly we could talk about it in Q&A. Thank you for that. So I am a real AZGeo user. Let me pop into the AZGeo site. You can see all my content here, 380 in total. I've got 150 feature layers, 43 maps, 45 applications, which would include web app builder, experience builder, dashboards, storyboards, the whole thing. But what I'm going to focus on today is the town of Cave Creek. And specifically, in fact, I saw one of the questions, a Francine said, hey, how do we integrate GPS? This is your lucky day. That's what I'm actually going to show. And so I'm looking at this water GPS layer. And this layer, as you can see, has 8,568 records. Those are GPS points taken in the field by our good friends. Now by the staff, but they're using the wonderful Bad Elf equipment, which you're going to see next in our next presentation. So let me pop over to the map. So this is, some of you checked custom JavaScript viewer. That's what this is. And we're also working on doing things in Experience Builder. If there was time, I could show you that, but here we go. This is just to give you a sense of where we're at. We're down here north of Phoenix. So let me zoom in. Phoenix proper, where Jenna's sitting somewhere in here. She's not at her house. She normally works down here. And let me zoom in. And we could see here on the table of contents, all the various data we got. We've got water, sewer, storm, reuse. But let's focus on sewer today. But before I talk about that, let me turn on the water GPS layer. These are a subset of those 8,000 points you saw, 8,500. And so they're out there all the time collecting data. And if I just click on one of these points, let's just click on this one. Hopefully it's got some good stuff. Here we go. You can see here that it's got all the typical things you'd expect with a GPS receiver, including our good friends at Bad Elf. And as we come down here, the custom fields, where it happens to be a meter. And let's see some attachment. Oh, good. They've done some attachments. They're telling us some information about the meter. There's the automatic read, the Neptune system they use to do the automated reads. Beautiful manhole or valve cover. Okay, you get the idea. So let me get rid of these just so we don't use resources. The concept, and this is kind of where we tie it back to a question that Francine had. All right, so how do we draw? If you can imagine the ESRI presentation that we had before, if you had all these points in the field, you could then snap to it. And keep in mind, this is all going through AZGeo, and it's all done real time. So the editors, as they come in, and that's what we do for the city or the town, is edit. So let me turn on the water system, and there you have it. I guess I told you we'd be talking about sewer. We can, but I just want to show you just how awesome the integration of field GPS at centimeter level accuracy. Do you really need centimeter accuracy to locate a valve or a meter? Nice if you can get it, right? And so we use it, and you can see all our GIS is tied to it. But since this is a sewer presentation, why don't we talk about sewer? And there you have it. Same deal. Let me turn it off. There's all our sewer points, and you can see that we use that and leverage it and put it right over the top. So the idea being is anytime that we have question on how or what to digitize, we can pop in and see the actual plan set that was used to define that. And so in the interest of time, I'm just blowing through this pretty quickly. According to my timer, since Jenna handed it over so quick, I'm only at 11 minutes. So I've got 4 more minutes to burn. You know what I just did? I accidentally just closed my my display. So I'm going to bring that back up. And while I'm doing that, I did want to show you that we are working on a tool that'll allow to do the same kind of thing in Experience Builder. Experience Builder has various widgets, and they're good widgets, but what we're doing is we're building one that brings it all together into one place that allows you to do things like select by attributes, apply queries, and away you go. So we're back here. Let's go sewer. Let's turn on the sewer. So what have I shown you here? I've shown you the ability to integrate plan sets, integrate GPS, keep the GIS up and running and accurate. These guys, when they're out in the field, they're collecting points, and that feeds us on the Arc Pro side so we can continually edit and maintain the data sets. The idea here too is, and we haven't done it for Cave Creek yet, but we will soon, is migrate them to the enterprise and the network utility network foundation, so that they can maintain all of their data in the latest, greatest Esri solutions for networks. What else can we show you here? One of the things that they do over there, and let me just show you the right of way, because this is interesting. They have a group of a surveying company out there that is continually maintaining their plats and their easements. And so the nice thing is in what shows in the way that ESRI is bringing us all together is we can have web services that are floating around and from various locations like this, the water GPS, these 3 GPS layers are web services over on AZ Geo. The right-of-way actually is coming from a different web service. I am publishing some of that up on AZ Geo. But to tie this back to the whole point, AZ Geo is at the hub of what we're doing here. I'm thankful that the State Lands Department has given the support that they have, and more importantly, the undying effort that Jenna has put in. It's really making this very successful. And for those of you that are out there in Arizona, if you haven't taken advantage of it yet, contact Jenna, contact me. We'll get you hooked up. It's a wonderful opportunity. And for those of you that aren't, look into opportunities that your jurisdictions may be offering. I'm not aware of anybody else doing it, but I can tell you this: it's a fantastic thing to share and leverage your data. And with that, I've got 15 seconds. So I'm going to toss it back to Jenna, who's going to introduce Noah, our next presenter.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I think I would just add that one of the advantages for local governments with AZGeo is that particularly small entities, they don't have to have the GIS expertise in-house. They can hire someone like Phil to help them and consult, but then their infrastructure sits on state infrastructure. It's secure, it encourages data sharing with their partners and interoperability with their neighbors. That is our motivation to provide the tool, is to provide all of the tools to rural communities and small entities that they need so they can build up their asset management. It's really important. So thanks, Phil. I really appreciate you showing how you can leverage AZGeo. It's my pleasure to introduce Noah Golinko from Bad Elf. They are also a partner of AZGeo and Arizona. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Phil. Okay, so I do also have a poll. I'm going to be talking. My name is Noah Golinko. I'm a geospatial enablement specialist at Bad Elf, and I just want to get a sense of who you guys use to collect your asset information and what your accuracy requirements are. So if you wouldn't mind filling out that poll. All right, so I'm going to talk about a little brief history of Bad Elf, and I'm going to show you how we partner with Esri and AZGeo. And next, we'll talk about some powerful mitigation strategies GNS and GNSS can bring to your pipeline. After that, I'm going to talk about the benefits of a digital system of record and show you how our team can help you make that a reality. Then we'll get into some Bad Elf hardware configurations. Phil was kind enough to show how our hardware integrates right with ArcGIS Online. And then lastly, I'll show you some of the powerful tools available to state and local governments with ArcGIS Online and what we've done with the ArcGIS hub site. And then I'm also going to share with you an example of the city of Tempe and what they've been doing with their wastewater biointelligence program. So who is Bad Elf? Bad Elf started as an aviation company. We actually created the first plug-in GPS unit for the Apple iPad back when it didn't used to have internal GPS, and that empowered pilots to GPS enable their logs that they were collecting on the iPad. So from that, we've grown into a mapping company and a survey. We have a mapping grade receiver and a survey grade receiver. And then we have been getting into the geospatial consulting world, and I will talk about that a little bit later. So our products work with most location-based apps. We work on iOS, Android, and Windows. And then I'm part of the geospatial enablement team. So you'll see throughout my presentation, the GET team, that's what we do. We help gel the migration to a digital system of record. So Bad Elf is a longstanding Esri Silver partner, and we have many specialties, and that include the state and local government specialty. In our partnership with Esri, we've developed questionnaires and customizations to many of the standard ArcGIS solutions, where our team customizes both the field and back office experience. And that uniquely positions organizations like yours to reap the maximum benefits of the solution upon deployment. Later in the presentation, I'm going to share with you the way we work with other organizations, such as yours, and how we help them deploy real-world implementations of these solutions. So these are some of the mitigation efforts that can be supported by GIS and GPS. GIS helps identify environmentally sensitive areas, allowing wastewater utilities to plan infrastructure projects that minimize ecological impact. And then GPS facilitates the accurate tracking of potential pollution sources, enabling a quick response to prevent or mitigate environmental damage. And then we can aid in leak detection and prevention. GIS can be used to monitor and analyze distribution networks for potential leaks or vulnerabilities. And then GPS aids in pinpointing the exact location of leaks, allowing for a swift response and minimizing water soil contamination. So we can also help in emergency response and crisis management. GPS and GIS technologies in the efficient emergency response provide real-time data during emergencies, helping utilities respond promptly to incidents such as spills, floods, or equipment failures. We can also aid in compliance with regulations. GIS can assist in documenting and reporting data required for regulatory compliance, ensuring that wastewater utilities adhere to environmental standards. And then GPS can provide real-time tracking of adherence to permitted routes and disposal areas to help avoid legal issues. Next, we can aid in infrastructure resilience. GIS can help in assessing the vulnerability of your wastewater infrastructure to natural disasters or climate change. And then GPS can enable real-time monitoring of infrastructure conditions, facilitating preventive maintenance and enhancing overall resilience. GIS can help in public health protection by identifying potential contamination sources and vulnerable areas, and that will allow for proactive measures to protect public health. GPS helps that by tracking and the monitoring spread of contaminants, supporting quick response and mitigation efforts. So this is all to say, we encourage you to centralize your geospatial data within a digital system of record, leveraging the power of Esri's ArcGIS ecosystem and the Bad Elf GNSS receivers to make informed decisions based on accurate, up-to-date information, improving overall operational efficiency and effectiveness, to track and manage inventory levels, ensuring the availability of essential components and minimizing downtime, to schedule and prioritize maintenance tasks, improving asset reliability and extending equipment lifespan, to efficiently allocate personnel, equipment, and materials, optimizing resources for cost-effective and timely project execution, to track and document regulatory compliance measures, simplifying the reporting process and reducing the risk of violations, and then to enhance transparency and communication with the community, providing real-time information on projects, issues, and environmental initiatives. So let's take a look at that poll and see who's actually using a digital system of record. Right, so it looks like mostly internal staff, some contractors, and a pretty even mix of accuracy requirements. Okay, so that's good to know. So how do you get there? I'm part of the geospatial enablement team at Bad Elf. My team was formed specifically to enable local governments through hardware and software to adopt these complex solutions while minimizing barriers to entry. We help your utility or municipality go from zero to hero, what we say, leverage our expertise for your benefit. And we provide turnkey process for helping our customers choose the right products, solutions, services, and hardware. Oh no. So the GET team offers consulting packages to help develop their geospatial system of record. And we utilize Esri ArcGIS solutions for maximum value. So how do you create a digital system of record? The foundation is GNSS receivers. As Phil had mentioned, they use the BADL Flex, which is this unit here on the left. We have 2 receivers and 4 configurations. The BADL Flex has a standard and extreme mode, as well as the Mini has a standard and extreme mode. So for the Flex standard, we can get 30 to 70 centimeters of accuracy out of the box with SBAS satellite-based corrections. And then in extreme mode, we can stream RTK corrections either from a private service or from your state-run RTK network. And we can get down to 1 centimeter of accuracy. And then with the BADL Flex Mini, we have a standard 1.5 meter to 1 meter accuracy. And then we're seeing results under 25 centimeters for RTK via N-trip in the Flex Mini. So this is a link to a QR code to a hub site that we've created. This is just a place where we centralize all of our offerings of the GET team. And this will be available afterwards. So this is a little screenshot of our hub site. We have our ArcGIS solutions, some custom tools and apps that we made, a lot of training videos, a link to our newsletter, and some custom story maps. I showed a picture of one earlier in my presentation. So the last thing I want to talk about is the Tempe Wastewater BioIntel program. So they began by opioid analysis, and they were supporting community outreach by measuring the levels of opioid contaminants in the water. And then during COVID-19 pandemic, the program focus was shifted to analyze disease trends and support mitigation efforts. So the Tempe BioIntel program is centralized on the ArcGIS hubsite platform. You can see this is a screenshot here of their ArcGIS hubsite. We also are available to help you leverage your geospatial intelligence and translate that into an actionable hubsite that can support your own outreach efforts. And that's all I have. So this is my contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And I will pass it to Tom Walski with Bentley.
Okay. You need to stop sharing and just looking for my screen here. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing a slide that you
Looks
don't
great.
see.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, great, thank you. Hopefully you're seeing a slide now that you hopefully don't see in practice. This is not a good thing, right? And this is one of the reasons why you have GIS systems and hydraulic models to look at it. This is a sewer overflow, and if you have this in your system, you are working hard to get rid of them because the regulatory people are coming after you. Now, the only thing worse than this is WIB, water in basements, where you're flooding people out. That's even worse than this. But this is getting sewage. Once it gets into a sewer main, is not supposed to come out like this. So let's look at why some of this happens and what kind of analysis tools you have to get from there. So we're going to look at 2 things. One is GIS and the capabilities of GIS, and there's just a lot of them, and you folks know all about them, so I won't belabor that. The other part of this puzzle is hydraulic modeling. It's a decision support tool that helps you with designing improvements to the system, changing operations, and asking the what-if questions. While GIS is involved mostly in what's in the ground today, the modeling is what if we do something else? And we can use this used commonly for design and operation of wastewater systems. So what does hydraulic modeling do? Well, given the physical description of the system and the pipes and manholes and pumps and the stuff that's in your GIS, connectivity to the system, You can import from your GIS and the flows loading the system. Given that information, we can tell you what the flow is everywhere in the system, how deep the water is, how fast it's moving, whether there's overflows, how efficient the pumps are running. And we have hundreds of things that we can calculate based on this physical description of your collection system. So why does that matter? And what we do is we use a hydraulic model, and the model is sewer GEMS. And this is a very geospatial oriented solution because GEMS stands for Geospatial Engineering and Modeling Systems, which is what sewer GEMS is. It's tying hydraulic calculations with geospatial modeling. So why do you need a computer model to do this? Can't you just kind of look at the connectivity in the GIS and tell what's going on? Well, to some extent you do, but if you can't try to figure out flows and depths and velocities and pipes, you need to solve the full Savinot equations. And they're going, oh my God, Tom, you didn't tell me there was going to be math in this session. And I apologize for that. But the good news is that this is the only time you need to see this, or you don't even need to see this. But this is the place where we come in and we say, just be able to find the button that says compute, and we'll take care of the heavy lifting. We'll do the calculations for you. Because these are like the worst kind of equations in the world to solve, because there's thousands of them, one for every pipe and chunks and manhole, and they're not algebraic equations, they're differential equations. They're not just differential, they're partial differential equations, and they're nonlinear. So if you talk to a mathematician, if any of you are out there, you know these are equations you don't want to solve. And that's why there are not many tools out there to do this. There's only a handful of commercially available tools along these lines because they're very hard to solve equations. And it's very hard to keep this whole thing up and running and build them. So we're one of the leaders in this particular field of solving these equations and tell you what's going on inside those pipes, give you X-ray visions into seeing what's inside the pipe, what's happening. So what can models do? Well, one of the things is they can see into the future. Your GIS, is great at saying what's in the ground right now. We have the records, we have the drawings. But what about you say, well, what's going to happen at 8 o'clock this evening? Well, the GIS usually doesn't have that, and SCADA doesn't know that either. So where do you go for that? Or what if you're going to say, if we put this new pipe in, what's the flow going to be in 2035 in this pipe? Well, this is where modeling comes in really handy and able to see what's going to happen in the future. And what happens between monitoring points? You may have flow meters in your system, but they're pretty expensive, and you can't put them everywhere. So how do you fill in all those other pipes that you don't have monitoring on? Well, that's where your hydraulic model can fill that in. And what happens about properties that you don't measure? You may be measuring flow and depth. Those are the two things most people measure. But what if you want to know the velocity to make sure you have adequate scouring of any solids in the sewers? Well, you can't. That's another thing you're going to have to measure. Or what if you're trying to find out the efficiency of a pump that's running? You just don't usually get that out of the SCADA system or in GIS. So it calculates things that you can't just measure easily and everywhere. And it predicts what happens when you change the system, because it's used for design and model and operations, where if you're going to change the design or change your operation, what's going to happen? And that's the place where modeling takes what's available from GIS and extends it. So what kind of problems do you solve? Well, there's so many. Land development design, master planning of collection systems for large systems, detailed pipe design, exactly what is the inverse of that we're supposed to be. Infiltration and inflow control. This is the bad guy that causes your sewers to overflow, this extra water. It's not supposed to be in your sewer system, but it's there. And it's trying to get out any way it can. And sometimes it gets out by flowing through the top of the manhole and flooding your streets out. And you don't want that. And this is where a lot of regulatory pressure comes in. Or finding capacity limitations. Somebody wants to build an extension to the system. And we saw that in one of the earlier examples. They're extending the system, but is the pipe big enough to handle those new customers? Well, this is where you can find those limitations, is running the model and say, yes, if we have enough capacity to handle this extension, or no, if you want to put a big building on that part of town, we're going to have to upgrade our sewer system. And then pump selection, among other things, and valves. And buying pumps is an important thing that the modeling gets used for. And then atypical events. What happens if there's some kind of a huge festival that's going to go on? You don't really have a lot of historical information about what's going to happen when they put a music festival out in the park and you get 10,000 people are going to come in. Well, you can simulate that and say, oh, this is what's going to happen in a particular situation. Okay, to put things in perspective, let's look back in time. Let's go back in history before there was GIS. Models existed since digital computers were available, but this is what we had to do when I started this kind of work. We were measuring the lengths of pipes with a little planimeter type device. We were measuring elevations by interpolating between contour lines in USGS maps. This was the technology, and this was painful, believe me. And what's happened is, with the coming of GIS and other tools, like extracting data from digital terrain models and this sort of thing, we've taken these steps that would take a month to do something, and you could do it in about 25 mouse clicks, if even that. And that's just if your data is spread around. There's a handful of mouse clicks can do what took much time. And in the old days, we'd be doing a master planning study, and you'd spend 80% of the time building and calibrating your model, and 20% of the time using that model to figure out how big your pipe should be. Nowadays, you can spend 10% of your time building the model, and the other 90% trying to find savings and costs, trying to do a better job with your design work. The kind of data we usually get out of GIS and other external sources are, of course, the network property, tools like Model Builder to build your model automatically, bringing in elevation data with terrain extraction, and then extracting loading data, the flows, what flows are going into your system, into your model. So these are the kind of things that we get out of external sources like GIS. And the good thing about our software is it uses the same file, the same model, whether you're looking at it through any of the platforms we support. You can think of the platforms as lenses. You can run it as this, looking through the lens of a standalone model that uses nothing but the GIS, or you can run it inside of a CAD package like MicroStation, or you can run it from inside of ArcMap or ArcGIS. So in the morning, and the good thing about our software, it's unique, is you don't have to change the file to move from one platform to the other. You basically say, okay, this morning I feel like working in the standalone platform, but after lunch, I think I'm going to work inside of ArcGIS. Well, no problem. You don't have to do a conversion. Same file works. So what's involved in setting this stuff up? There's a little price you got to pay. You got to say, okay, these are the names of things inside my GIS, and this is what they're called in the model. So you just got to tell it, this is how to map one of those into the other, and you got to take the attributes, and these are the attributes. They're called D and C, let's say, in the source file, and in the model, it may be called diam and roughness or something like that. So you have to do this, but this is a one and done thing. You do this one time during setup, and it's not that hard to get it done, and it's over. So one of the bigger problems that came up, we've been doing this since like the late 90s, and in the early days, what would happen is you'd build the GIS, you'd build your model from the GIS, and you have everything all together and in sync with one another. And what happens over time is people add things to the model to look at what-if scenarios. The GIS gets added as a new subdivision comes on, or you replace some pipes, and no longer are they in sync. And so now there was a lot of work in the early days keeping these two things in sync. They were continuously making sure that these two had the same data in it. And if one thing changed, the other one doesn't. And now, of course, over the years, we've evolved tools where you can change something in one of them, and you'd say, okay, do we want to sync these back up again or not? And you can do it globally. Say everything that was changed in GIS, we want to move it over into the model. Or you could say, I want to pick the ones. I want to move this data, and this data into the model for my GIS to keep it up to date. And you have these kind of tools available now that, again, this is more early 2000s. We finally developed this sort of tool. So now I want to talk a little bit about data quality standards. This was a session on data quality, data of sewer data. I want to say something about it. The usual things you use the GIS for are things like mapping and asset management and work orders, and all of these require good quality data. But I'll argue that the most important and the most restrictive kind of data is with hydraulic modeling. This is where you really need not to just round things off or be sloppy at all, because it will hurt you in the end. Just trivial cases, here's a section from the GIS. Okay, do those pipes connect or not? Or does it look like this? Well, you have to be careful. In the map, it doesn't matter that much. There's two pipes that cross one another, big deal. But in the model, this makes all the difference in the world. And so we developed a whole array of tools to make sure that you can do your QA and QC to make sure things work right. For example, you might have two pipes that look like they're connected, but this one's connected with this manhole, this one's connected with this manhole, and no water gets through. Is that true, or did somebody screw up, and this really should be one manhole that the water flows through? Or pipes that this pipe looks like it's connected to this manhole down here, and really it isn't. It's about a centimeter away, but it was never snapped to it. So the water goes down this pipe and gets to the end of the pipe and says, I don't know where I'm going. You've got to make sure you've got these connectivity issues right. And that's we have a whole bunch of tools that will say, okay, where do we have crossing pipes that we're not sure about? Or where do we have two manholes that are right next to one another, and then maybe there really should be one manhole there. And we point them out to you, and you could decide how you want to deal with these things, because connectivity issues really matter in this kind of stuff. So these something that might look okay in a map may not really be okay in hydraulic calculations. And you've got to be beware of this sort of thing and make sure that the quality of data that you've got is up to speed. And then we get all kind of outputs. This is just a time series of flow through a pipe in the system. So, okay, what caused it to look like that? Which is just this a hydraulic question for you folks. Okay, because you say, well, this is some wet weather event where the flow gets really high, and then after the peak of the hydrograph, it goes down. Okay, so that's the event. But what are those spikes? Well, what that's caused by, for example, is there's a pump station upstream that occasionally comes on and pumps some more extra flow in. So that's what these pipes are. Every time the pump station kicks on, you get a little extra flow. And we could predict that and tell you that's going to happen, and where it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how high the flow is going to be, and is that going to exceed the capacity of our system? Okay, and then you could then get profile views that you can draw, and you look at what's the water depth going to be in the sewer at this time of day, and what's going to be later on in the day, and what's the maximum level, and what if we ever going to get to the point where we're overflowing through a manhole. So you can see what's going on. Basically, as I said, it gives you X-ray vision into what's going on underground in terms of hydraulics, because most of the things we've talked about today are just positioning things, getting the pipe in the right place. But now we're taking that and saying, not only do we know the right place to put the pipe, but how deep the water is and how fast it's moving. So in summary, GIS and model works just great together. They're tools made to work together. That picture on the side's a partial fluid, a wastewater plant. When the wastewater gets into the sewer, you want it to get to the treatment plant. Okay, that's your goal. And let GIS do what it does best. Let modeling do what it does best. And it's a really good marriage made in heaven. And things like model building and such have gotten much easier. With the tools we have nowadays, you can spend your time actually doing the calculations, doing the hydraulics, or having the models do the hydraulics for you, and you can think. Remember, old days, IBM had a motto that says, machines should work, people should think. And that's what we do to some extent. We let the computers do the calculations, and then you can think about what's the right thing to do. And good models lead to good decisions. And that's what we're trying to do. The payback from doing modeling is great. You can save, because you're doing projects, always they're seldom are they not in the millions of dollars. If you can save 1 or 2% because you did some better analysis, you're paying tens of thousands of dollars, which more than pays for the modeling work that you're going to do. So it's a really good payback from all of this. Okay, so that's the end of what I have to say. There's my email address if you ever want to contact me. And we're going to do now is have the rest of the gang get together. We're going to have a party here, okay? So we're going to have everybody turn their cameras back on so you folks don't have to look at me anymore. And that you should appreciate. And we'll let the speakers take any questions that you've posed. And everybody's up there, and I see this good-looking crew, and I'm sorry for being the ugliest one of the team here, but that's just the way life is. And I'll turn it over to the moderator.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. And that was a fascinating presentation by everyone. So thank you again, panelists. So looking through some of the questions that came in. So first question for you, Alex. A couple, I think, technical questions that popped through.
Sure.
People were asking about ability to do bulk uploads with Esri rather than individual management. If you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I believe what that question is referring to is being able to add like lateral lines in a bulk way. So the geometric network, which was an ArcMap, used to be able to do that with Attribute Assistant. So we cannot do that with this solution because this is an ArcGIS Online. You could probably do it with attribute rules in ArcGIS Pro, but they don't work with online feature services. So that would likely have to be done with maybe the utility network. But it would definitely, right now, cannot be done using attribute rules with ArcGIS Online.
And so kind of a follow-up question to that is for folks who have existing data, GIS data that isn't necessarily in ArcGIS, what's the process of being able to transform and upload that into ArcGIS?
Yeah, so there's a few ways you can do that. We do have tools. We have an ArcGIS Online tool to update data. You can go right to the feature service. There's a tool on the feature service that says update data. We also can use ArcGIS Pro. There's an append tool. The limit with those tools is that if your data, let's say, is in text format and ours is using coded values with integers, it's going to load your text data into our integer fields, which would not work. So we do have a third option called data loading tools that does translation. So it actually uses an Excel workbook. It allows you to map your source fields to your target fields, and it will actually translate the data from, let's say you have text and we have integer, it'll translate it for you, and you can map that out using the data loading tools. And actually starting this past November at ArcGIS Pro 3.2, they're actually built into our core tools now. So they used to be a pro project add-in. Now it's actually part of our core tools. And it's called data loading tools.
Thank you. So let me switch over to Jenna. Question coming in for you, and I'm reframing this a little bit, but so with the tools you have in Arizona, how do you determine what data is made available publicly, what data is not, is private data, and based on the importance of the asset, the security purposes, anything like that?
The first level of security, as far as sharing, et cetera, is really up to the contributor. So the contributor decides if they want to share their data publicly or privately within a collaborative group or not at all. If they do want to make it open data through our open data portal, there's a request process, and we have kind of checks at different levels. So the average AZGO user is not a contributor by default. They have to request contributor access. That allows them, if they're not a contributor, they can create data in their own space, but they can't publish it anywhere, essentially. If they're a contributor, then they can publish and they can work in a group and update data, etc. If they want to make it public and they want it to be accessible through our open data site, they have to put a request into our data curator. And the data curator is kind of the person that looks at all the data and makes sure that everybody is playing nice in the sandbox. It helps to support the trusted network. Having his oversight allows people the confidence in the data they're accessing through our open data, that it is authoritative, that it does have the right components. So that's our system of checks.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Jared, can I add one thing? There was a question in the chat from a Jamie who was concerned because a lot of cities and towns don't like their GIS data being shared publicly. Mm-hmm. In the case of the town of Cave Creek that I demonstrated, they don't have a problem with it. They send it out to consultants. They enjoy the flexibility of opening it up. But that's not to say that some other cities I work for, like especially Indian reservations, they go through a stringent security like what Jen is talking about. So it is dependent on the publisher and the client, like Jenna said, but they can accommodate all levels of security.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah.
That's a great follow-up. And actually, Phil, the next question we have is for you, which is your own question, which is, why is Experience Builder such a great tool?
I got to tell you, you could tell from my gray hair, I've been in the business for a while. So I've been doing GIS since ArcInfo was running on VAX machines back in the 80s. And so we've grown up with Esri tools. Back then it was, and then the big thing was ArcIMS. And with all respect to our Esri participant, the inside word was, it was Arc, it's a mess. But that was a long, long time ago, and things have evolved. Our latest, okay, so let me just say this. The web viewer I showed you today was something that we built. And the reason why we built it is because the clients were saying, the Esri doesn't seem to have a tool for us. I am no longer supporting that tool. I'm going everything Experience Builder. And the reason is because they have really done a wonderful job on that platform. And, you know, if nothing else, when I publish something, it can be seen on a tablet, on a phone. I mean, they have really got their act together on Experience Builder, and I would encourage everybody to go that way. We all made an investment in Web App Builder, but it's worth the investment in Experience Builder.
Got it. Yeah, that's useful information. Next question it actually is from me. Noah, over to you. You spoke a little bit about the Tempe, Arizona biological wastewater GIS mapping project. I was just curious if you could talk about that a little bit more. You know, how did Tempe get started with it? Or, and maybe Jenna, this is a question for you as well. But, you know, how did it get started? How did the program build out? And how do other municipalities do it? I mean, it's really innovative and interesting work.
Jenna might know a little bit more about the background, but I believe it got started with a grant from ASU to do some work on public health as far as opioid contaminants in the water, to do some outreach into the community for that. And then the pandemic happened and it sort of morphed. So Jenna will probably speak a little bit better than me about it.
Yeah, I would say some of it was a happy accident. We were all learning on the fly. How do we help our public? How do we make the information more accessible? How do we know where there's at-risk populations with COVID? So the city of Tempe had already gone down the path of tracking opioids. So they had some idea of a path to handle how do we track outbreaks? How do we inform the public of where that risk is and in real time? So they already had a little bit of experience, and I think they just continued that through the thoughtful process of, okay, now we have a bigger problem, and none of us really knew what to do initially. So they used the technology that they were already invested in to expand that for COVID. It was incredibly successful, and we saw that in other places across the nation as well. The use of GIS to see where the at-risk populations were and where people needed to be safer.
And have you seen other areas of Arizona taking on similar projects or starting those sort of activities since then, like with the success of that?
Yes, I would say so. Southern Arizona and the University of Arizona, Pima County did some in the same vein, and I think there were other little pockets. We have a pretty robust GIS connected to the health department in Arizona, so they were very busy doing analysis and using GIS to track outbreaks in vulnerable populations. So it's real similar.
Very cool. Very interesting. Okay, next question is over to Tom. So the question is, how does GIS and modeling work with CCTV inspection and flow monitoring to solve problems?
Great question in that. It's really, when I look at it as a four-legged stool that you need to solve these problems best. You need the GIS data, so you know where the network is. You need data from your SCADA system or whatever kind of telemetry you're using, any kind of IoT, to know what happened in the past so you can calibrate your models. You also need the model to do the calculations. And then sometimes when you can't figure out what's going on, it really pays to have CCTV to run the camera down the line and see what happened in there. Is the pipe collapsed? Are there roots growing in the pipe? So you put these four things together and you have a really powerful arsenal at your fingertips. And so modeling by itself, if you can't calibrate it with some field data, you really are shooting in the dark to some extent. And so you want to do is make sure you have some good data to verify that the answers you're getting out are correct. And once you build that confidence, you can really use the tool to its maximum efficiency.
And maybe a follow-up question, just for my curiosity, is, I can understand how municipalities can use, bad ELF data uploaded into ArcGIS. What is the journey for municipalities to start on the hydraulic monitoring journey? Like, how do they start thinking about that? What sort of data do they need first to be able to do that? Because I assume a lot of data needs to go into it to be able to figure some of that stuff out.
But about 95% of that data already exists in your GIS. So you have that basic map, you know, the elevation of the ground and of the manhole inverts, which is the key thing that determines what the slope is. You know what the material of the pipe is, the size of the pipe. So hopefully if you've built a good GIS, you have a tremendous leg up on things. Now it's got to be good quality though, because I've had situations where I say, oh, we have the data in our GIS. And I say, okay, we'll import it into the model. And they import into the model and it's, oh my God, this is garbage. You got to go back and say, yeah, you got to clean this up first before we can really use this. And then once you have that data in and in good quality, then the other thing you've got to work on is things like loading, like how much of the rainfall gets into the sewer, for example, or what's the efficiency of pumps, or how do the pumps know to turn on or off, setting up controls. So there's that little bit of additional information that's usually not in the GIS that you have to go and get from other sources.
Got it. Okay. So the next question, I believe this is for Alex, but I'll open it up to the group. And it's a question of defining the difference between sanitary and storm in this conversation. I think mostly we were talking about sanitary as a concept because we actually did a webinar a few weeks ago that was specifically focused on storm, but I think it'd be useful for us to just discuss a little bit about, you know, differences and similarities. Do the solutions work for both storm and sanitary? How are they different? What are differences? And again, I think it's open to the group, but maybe start with Alex. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So what I showed was specific for wastewater, but we also have a stormwater data management solution as well and other stormwater solutions. They do share some similar features like manholes, like pipes, but the solution itself is catered specifically for wastewater in the solutions that I showed.
Yeah, I could put some historical perspectives on this. In the early days when cities were forming, they just wanted to get the nasty stuff away from the houses. Okay, they didn't care how it got there, so they built one pipe in the ground and when it had sanitary waste get into it and carried down to hopefully a treatment plant or at least the river. And then when it rained, they got huge flows. Rainfall flows were often many times over what you could handle at a treatment plant. And that was the problem. You would have, you know, you can intercept the dry weather flow and treat it, but the wet weather came, you just spilled it all into the river. And that kind of grew out of fashion, but there's still a lot of systems out there that have these combined sewer systems. A lot of the old systems in the Great Lakes area and in the East Coast have a lot of combined sewers. And there's the type of technology used to solve those problems. But then along came, you know, separate sewer systems, and they gradually became more popular. And by the 70s, they were mandated in most places where you'd have two pipes in the ground. One is for your stormwater and one is for your sanitary waste. So the sanitary waste would be a much smaller pipe because it's pretty limited. While the rainfall could be very large amounts. You have a bigger one and doesn't need to get the same level of treatment. You could just bypass the treatment plant and you could keep the treatment plants running steady. One of the things that's very important for wastewater treatment plants is you want them to run at a pretty even flow rate. You don't want to have these huge spikes hit the plant and wash anything out of the plant. So historically, you know, you have sanitary and storm are now two, but in the old days, there's a lot of combined sewer systems, and you got to do some pretty heroic stuff because separating sewer systems in an existing old city is prohibitively expensive in most cases.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of a story when I was working at a utility in Garrettsville, Ohio, of all places, and we had a separate sewer sanitary and storm system, and when there were illegal connections, we used to try to go find those, which meant basically we had big smoke bombs that we would drop in sewer systems and see where the smoke would come out to identify those storm connections to be able to fix and address those. And, you know, I'm sure some of the folks on this call are probably still doing some of those sort of ideas, but hopefully GIS is helping solve a lot of those sort of issues and being able to identify a lot of those points. All right. So we had a number of questions on the Esri platform. So one question was around the apps available for individuals who are working in the field. And I think maybe this is probably a two-part, one for you, Alex, and then also Noah, for you a little bit about the collection side of it and the components for the bad elf piece. So maybe you can each speak to it a little bit.
Sure. So I wasn't able to show all the different parts of the solutions. But with the sewer data management solution, there is a field map that is designed to be used out in the field. I was able to show that short recording that was using workforce out in the field, and as well as field maps. We do have solutions that also use Survey 123. So the field is a big component of our solutions.
And no, do you want to?
Yeah, and I will say that our units, they integrate perfectly with all of Esri's apps. There was a question about if you need GIS, Bad Elf GIS software to utilize our receivers. You do not. We basically just take over all location services for whatever device you connect our unit to. And then we work, with the Esri Field Maps team very closely. And it integrates very well. And our pricing is on the website. If you want to check out the website, badelf.com. There was a question about that as well. And we do offer government discounts.
Great. I love it when my panelists have the questions ready prior to me even having to ask them. This makes my job so much easier. So thank you all. So let's just open up a few group questions. So from the different polls that came in, we had a number come in. Was there anything surprising to anyone?
I would say the adoption rate of ArcGIS Online, I believe it was in the high 70s. That was pretty surprising to me. It seems like a lot of
In a good way?
people have already stepped into the future. Yeah, great, in a great way.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
So Jared, this is Phil. I'm encouraged that people have been looking at Experience Builder. I think still it was they're not the familiarity isn't anywhere near where it could be, but in looking at the questions that people are posting, they're asking, hey, do I have access to this? The answer is yes, absolutely. When you create when you're in ArcGIS Online, you can create an Experience Builder right from there. It's just a matter of exposure. And I said earlier, because I'm not getting paid from Esri to wave their flag, but I got to tell you, Experience Builder is finally the tool that we should go to. And somebody mentioned in the questions, Jared, that Web App Builder is quote unquote going away. Nothing ever really goes away, but I can tell you that Esri's focus is Experience Builder, and the tools that they're focusing on and making better is Experience Builder. Web App Builder, they're just going to stop making it better. So now's the time to invest and move to the future.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that as well. So there was also another question, is Web App Builder going to migrate to an Experience Builder app since Web App Builder is going to retirement? Because I did show a Web App Builder application. So we do have a plan on the solutions team. Any new solutions that we're creating, for the most part, we are using either Experience Builder or Instant Apps, which is our newer technology. For example, I showed at the end, one of the solutions was reclaimed water data management. It's virtually the same thing I just showed for sewer data management, but we are using Instant Apps for that, for the editor and for the viewer, rather than Web App Builder. Any existing solutions that we have, like sewer data management that is using Web App Builder, right now we're just waiting on some functionality to become available in Experience Builder. So for example, batch attribute editing is not yet available in Experience Builder, but it is available in Web App Builder. So they do have a plan to add that hopefully within the next year. And when that happens, we will migrate our solutions using Web App Builder to either Experience Builder or Instant Apps Quick Capture that are built on our 4x JavaScript API. And I also want to say, so if you do deploy a solution that has Web App Builder, it doesn't mean in 2025 it's just going to stop working. It'll continue working. It's just exactly what Phil just said. It's not going to get any additional updates moving forward.
Got it. Okay. And I guess the other question for the group is, what questions weren't asked that you think would be really informative for the group to know about wastewater asset management and GIS? Anyone?
Hey, Jared, one of the things that when Alex, one of the questions was posed about data and solutions, what are available. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out, as Alex was going through his presentation and showing us solutions, I wanted to from my side as a user, let everybody know that one of the first things we do is hunt the solution site for existing things that maybe Esri has put together out there. And the reason why I do that is because rather than ever having to develop a schema from the ground up, it's always better to take a look at something that's already been built. And, you know, in the old days, we called it, Esri had the government model. I forgot what it was called, the government model. And it had the benefit of showing us, you know, what Esri thought the governments were using. But I can tell you that these most recent solutions, they're almost like open source, right? Because other people are contributing their solutions, and it's a really nice way to get a feel for what other entities are doing. And the reason why I bring that up is because we're getting ready to do a deployment for a sewer entity here locally, and I want to show them Alex's presentation today, because what's nice is they may not adopt every aspect of what he showed today, but it's nice to know where you could go, right? And use the Esri solutions as kind of a platform to start with as a jumping off spot. You may not use every single one of the 1,000 entities and attributes they have in there, but my gosh, it provides you a great platform to grow into. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that's oftentimes the hardest part of the journey for these sort of things, figuring out where to start. What's, you know, if you have a municipality of, you know, 150,000 people, you know, how do you get the first assets in there and all of the assets in there, and what's the uptake? And, you know, the other question I have around this is, you know, what are the workforce needs to be able to have the skill sets and abilities to support municipalities in their GIS mapping and you know, and hydraulic modeling journey? Like, you know, is that a challenge for a lot of municipalities? And I don't know, maybe this is a question for you, Jenna, with some of the folks that you work with, but you know, I'd open it to the group.
Yeah, I would say that there is a need for additional education and integration. From Arizona's perspective and AGIC, the Arizona Geographic Information Council, one of the things that we do in the hopes of succession so that someone will replace me and Phil someday, is we have a mentorship program. And we pair people based on their interests with students and emerging professionals, folks that are just in the workforce. They may not know where their specialty lies or what they're really interested in, but one of the things they can do is through our professional network, they can explore those options. So sharing how important that relationship building is and the professional networks, so that municipalities and local government and state government have a pipeline. Why would folks want to work in the public sector? You know, we provide some of that structure and support and insight through AGIC and our committees and work groups, particularly the mentorship program.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating and great that Arizona is doing that. So we are almost at 11:30 Mountain Time where I am. One final quick question for you, Alex. Is the experience platform part of the online GIS Esri?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we got that in there. So with that, I want to thank all of our panelists. I know I learned a lot today and had a lot of interesting takeaways from this. So thank you all, and also for everyone who was part of this. And yeah, and so that's all we have for the presentation today. And we want to thank everyone again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for attending, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be ending the webinar shortly.
So we're going to get some kind of evaluation or summary or after